Okay.
Warming up. If you are watching this because it's recorded, know that we will start in a few minutes
Because
after we manually reshare our links.
it is a live stream, which means
We stream live.
we gotta hustle for audience to make the most of this experience. But we have learned to like prattle in the beginning of each episode, just to kind of give it something to go with. Oh.
We're back to nighttime.
Hmm.
Yeah, comparing.
Well, we're also in darker shirts, I guess. So
Yeah, I guess the shirts really do affect things.
yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Do, 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 do.
Hey, Andre.
Hello.
Glad to have you join us.
Hope you can stay long.
Yes, we are going to talk about that a lot in a bit.
I'm just tweeting.
Okay, link shared to the mailing list. Mhm. Okay, that's reshared. Andre, if you can hear us, do let us know if the audio is clear. To anyone else viewing, if you're viewing live, be sure to comment so you can be part of the show. If you're not viewing live, you can still comment. We just want to see it.
We will one day, just not anytime soon. Not at the point of this broadcast. It is an event that is yet to happen. But it will happen. Will it?
Okay, I guess we'll start in 2 minutes.
You are.
Starting my timer.
If you are watching, remember it's a live stream, so feel free to comment to participate in the discussion. We'll try to incorporate what you have to say into the episode,
Mhm.
because that's how this goes. Huzzah. If there is a sound like rain,
One
it's a
minute.
fan. If there's a sound like machinery, it's the washing machine. The many background noises of our house. If there is a sound like bees, it would have been the air conditioning. Hard to choose. Mm,
All right, it's time to start.
Sure. So we'll just run the intro and we'll be right back.
Oh yeah! Really great!
Hello, everyone. This is Toby.
And this is
And
Rocky.
if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Based on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
It is completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. This Thursday, we're talking about how do I start?
Let's talk about tomorrow.
Something that was a great book, a series of books, had a questionable movie, but then ended with a great series on a streaming site.
Because tomorrow is Friday the 13th, and
Yes.
this whole week has been about luck and misfortune.
Mhm.
We decided that
Thematically,
we wanted to be a little thematic this week and just talk about a bunch of luck-based stuff. And then for our Thursday fandom discussion, we settled on a series of unfortunate events, like as a franchise, as opposed to talking about Just My Luck,
Mhm.
that movie with Chris Pine, because
which we could have talked about.
which we could have talked about, but it's one of like a few movies that we could immediately think of that involved luck in the title. And there was Good Luck Chuck, but I don't think we had very strong feelings about it.
Yeah.
All right, so we ended up talking. So we're focusing on a series of unfortunate events, published under the author pen name of Lemony Snicket.
Mhm.
This is not his real name. The author is actually Daniel Handler,
Mhm.
and it's a series of 13 books because, of course, a series that is about unfortunate events would number 13.
I wonder if that was the first pitch when he talked to the publisher. Now, this has to be 13 books.
I get, and it's quite bold, but at the same time, see, when you think about its time of release, Harry
Mhm.
Potter was already a thing
Mhm.
and was gaining steam, and all the young adult, book publishers were eager to gobble up any franchise that they could. And a series of unfortunate events was one of the first that got picked up, and it was
Mhm.
surprising that it was a 13 book series. I remember at the time I resisted getting into it.
Mhm.
I didn't particularly get into Harry Potter on my own. We only got into Harry Potter because all the newspapers were talking about, sorry, that sounds so archaic. All the news was talking about Harry Potter, and it was my mother who actually bought
Mhm.
the Sorcerer's Stone and says like everybody's reading it. So then apparently we have to read it. So when it came to a series of unfortunate events, which was always like in the kiddie section of the books, because before the young adult section was not so prominent. Um, I said no, I'm not going to buy into this. I'm not going to read another thing. And it wasn't until years later that I finally gave it a shot. Okay.
To those who are viewing, just so you know, as a live stream, we do incorporate your comments and questions. So please feel free to join the conversation in the comments, and we'll be sure to add you in the discussion.
So, and I think for many, I think for both of us, then our first true exposure to the franchise, ironically enough,
Mhm.
was the
Jim Carrey movie.
Yes, the 2000, what was that, 2004
Mhm.
adaptation, which covered the first three books. And Mitch is here. Hello, Mitch. So, what do you remember from first seeing the movie?
So I wasn't sure what to expect with the movie. The quirkiness of of the poster already told you it's going to be an interesting ride.
Mm-mm.
I remember getting very fascinated with all the eye symbology
Mm.
because when the movie was about to come out, um, I think there was a very active online marketing campaign
Yeah.
wherein there were all these mysterious eyes and stuff where you had to try to find them in the web pages. And
Don't you miss expanded media marketing efforts? This
and
was before social media, so it was websites
mhm,
that were really pushing it.
mhm. And then
Thanks, Matrix.
there was a lot of interesting visuals to it that made you think, of course, oh, this is sort of like Tim Burton-esque, or
Yes, yes.
this is very gothic humor, Beetlejuicy. And then when you add the fact that it's supposed to be Jim Carrey coming in, there is that excitement because we haven't seen him in a long time when this movie was coming out. Um, and then big names attached to this movie,
Yeah. So
very big names.
okay, I was double checking like who directed this, and it's a
Mhm.
guy named Brad Silberling, whose movie career actually is not that big, but it's like very
But he's
interesting.
very active on TV,
Yeah, yeah.
and
So
eventually creates Jane the Virgin.
yeah, his first like big, first notable movie is ironically the 1995 Casper movie,
Mhm.
and then he went on to do City of Angels, which became quite big at the time, which is
Mhm.
funny. Oh, and Jay's here. Hello, Jay. And then um and then he did Moonlight Mile, which I'm not familiar with, and then finally he did Lemony Snicket, a series of unfortunate
Moonlight
events.
Mile, isn't that the one with what's his name? The Bees, the Bees. Oh no, no, no. I miss Moonlight Mile's Jake Gyllenhaal. Mitch mentions she encountered the franchise through the movie as well. Andre, of course, is already jumping ahead. He was the first one here who mentioned Netflix is superior to the movies. We'll get into that in more detail. Mitch does share the title is catchy. A bad day is like a series of unfortunate events. Um, yung sana natulog na lang ako.
Yes, good job. You're reading Mitch. And then Jay says, you remember seeing a lot of commercial on Nickelodeon. It was dark, but as a preteen, found it quite fascinating.
Yeah, but then again, looking at the cast, you have Tim Curry. You had I can't remember her name.
Meryl Streep.
Yeah, Meryl Streep. There you
Meryl
go.
Streep was a surprise.
I'm surprised she's not one of the first names mentioned because it's a small role and it's a surprise role of oh my god, that's Meryl
Yeah,
Streep.
yeah. Jay he shares pasta puttanesca has been a part of his vocabulary ever since. That's true. I feel like a lot of people learn what pasta puttanesca is, although the way they made it was probably not the most authentic, given they had to work with the limited ingredients they had. So I think similarly, I felt the same way. Like the title was intriguing. I still knew only of the books, but had not read the books.
Hmm.
But then I was like wary about Jim Carrey at this point because I think it was, to be fair, I think 2004. That means had he already done things like his more serious stuff?
Yes,
I think he had. Na,
he had he had dove into his superstition based movie,
Oh,
the
the
number
number 30,
23.
23. I was like say
But that was
13.
after. That was after a series of unfortunate events.
Oh,
His
but then see he
prior
had
to this was Bruce Almighty
an
and
Eternal
Eternal
Sunshine
Sunshine.
of the Spotless Mind. So yeah, but he also had weird things like how the Grinch stole Christmas, and then it's like, oh man, did I really want to watch a Jim Carrey thing? But we still went to see it, and was quite pleasantly surprised. And he was a little still very Jim Carrey, which is like a very distinct way of comedic acting. Which half the time I don't know anymore if that's really the way he does
Hmm.
comedy authentically, or it's the way directors tell him to do it because they
Hmm.
know that that's what people expect.
Yes.
You know, um, and and but it was a surprisingly engaging movie. And then yes, the Meryl Streep uh, cameo was a game changer for me. Like I think I still
Meryl Streep endorse.
and everything, and
It was
she
that entire house sequence.
and she
The
super
house
like
on the cliff, right?
she captured like ultimate paranoia, but as if like fully embodying how everything could be um unlucky.
Hmm.
But then her almost paranoid ramblings turned out to be near accurate
Hmm.
predictions of the dangers they would face. So, um, so Jay also shares, oh my god, the spittoon. And then he loved Jim Carrey as Count Olaf because very iconic. I will admit, he was a great Count Olaf.
It was a very well depicted Olaf. The over the topness. Um, I feel like if it weren't for Jim Carrey, the later Netflix version would not have had Neil Patrick Harris doing it in that
Mm,
same iconic
mm.
way. It might have looked different. It might have been a less theatric and more grim. But thanks to Jim Carrey's depiction, that became a good foundation for what became the Netflix version.
And the kids were okay. I like. I mean, the kids were. It was very interesting casting choices for the Baudelaires. And then looking at it now, it's like, um, in hindsight, like, Emily Browning's face never really changed, and I feel like she grew up, but I don't know. And then oh yeah, she was in Sucker Punch. Little things I forget, like and then of course American Gods, and then Liam Aiken who played Klaus. What has he done since then? Very interesting indie things. These titles I don't recognize too much, but that's fine. That's fine.
Now, the book talks basically about the many unfortunate events that happened to the
Baudelaire.
Baudelaire orphans.
Yeah, and even just calling them that instead of the Baudelaire children, they're the
Mhm.
Baudelaire orphans. It was such a rubbing salt into the wound the whole time.
Mhm.
That yeah, they have a terrible life.
The story is narrated with this almost stylistic witness who is transcribing the events down. And this is Lemony Snicket.
In the movie they distinctly made it Lemony Snicket
Mhm.
typing inside a
In the
clock tower.
books,
It's just a narration, but yeah, it's generally Lemony Snicket also like
wherein he's
dictating
sort
the
of like
events.
confessing the gruesome and grim events and making sure that that is down the paper.
Mm-mm. So but the and clearly the movie was an attempt again to like follow in the footsteps of Harry Potter.
Hmm.
That had it been successful enough, it would have become a full franchise. But it was just okay. It wasn't phenomenal. I loved it. I will admit that I loved it.
So other uncredited appearances include Jane Lynch as the realtor,
Oh,
Helen
yes.
Bonham Carter as Beatrice Baudelaire, Gilbert Gottfried as the voice of Aflac Duck, and
Mm.
Dustin Hoffman as a critic.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. The Dustin Hoffman appearance was weird.
Mhm.
He was the critic of the play where they tried to do the marvelous wedding thing.
And then Jim Carrey also mentions that um, the actor's inspiration for Olaf's voice was combining the voices of Orson Welles and Bela Lugosi.
That's quirky. I mean, yeah, because I mean the very concept of Count Olaf was this whole I mean he was a thespian. He was not a great one, but he was super dedicated to being an
Mhm.
actor. And thus everything he did was overly grandiose and the like. And it was just fun. I wouldn't have minded had this become like uh, a film series. Like
Mhm.
I definitely wanted to see where
And
it
there
could
were
go.
plans, right?
Yeah, there were plans. It
So
was just that.
Paramount,
Mhm.
DreamWorks Pictures, and Nickelodeon Movies had hoped the film would become a series like the Harry Potter film series. Um, Jim Carrey thought his character would be a good basis for a film franchise, would allow him to dive into a new role. But I guess it didn't catch so much with the audience. Back in October 2008, a sequel seemed to be in the works, but there were shakeups.
At Paramount,
By
yeah.
2009, they were still talking about the project, but I guess it started to fall apart. And then it would come back as the Netflix series in 2014.
Yeah. So and then now like I feel like the Netflix series definitely took a stab at like, okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna commit to it. And I know like I wasn't like a diehard enough fan of the movie
Hmm.
to feel very strongly about Netflix making an adaptation. Like I was just curious to see what it could be. But at this point, we had already seen a number of Netflix projects, and then it was like I was getting a little like tired to some degree. Like you can only have so many Netflix original
Hmm.
shows. Um, some are great, some aren't, and then some aren't even Netflix, but they have an exclusive distribution deal outside North America. So we end up thinking them of Netflix shows. Things like Lucifer is not a Netflix exclusive per se, but a lot of people think of them as a Netflix show now because that's where they watch it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're just like we'll wait and see. And then Neil Patrick Harris announced as Count Olaf. I think when we first saw a trailer for it, we were just like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I didn't know how to feel about it. Man, so now I'm trying to think about how did we feel when we first watched the
So we
Netflix
were
show.
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah,
We wanted to see where it would go. We were curious to see how they would approach it. And if I remember, at this time, you already started reading the books.
yes. In
And
anticipation of the Netflix series, I said, "Doggone it, I'm gonna finally read the book."
and you were very curious to see how they would do certain scenes. Everything from, oh, because it's like that when it's reflected in the water and blah blah blah. So I wonder if they'll do that and stuff like that. And first series, first because there were 4 seasons.
Three,
Isn't it four?
three.
Oh, three. Okay. So first season we watch it, and we end up really liking it. We like the tone, we like the pacing, the visuals nicely. They don't replace the film, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
help separate it from the experience. You don't find yourself confusing the two.
So the first season, almost covered the same ground as the Jim Carrey movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it was largely the first. Uh, it was the first four books actually, because it was the Reptile Room, the Wide Window, and the Miserable Mill. Oh, sorry, and the Bad Beginning, and they covered each book in like two parts.
Mm-hmm.
So which became like the pattern for most of the series. So it was intriguing, and then this one, um, they had an interesting choice for the narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Like the narrator, I mean, to be fair, like both in the movie and the TV series, the Lemony Snicket narration was like a key part of things.
Yes.
But then I feel like the way they shot the Netflix series, they almost tried to make it feel Twilight Zone-ish,
Mm-hmm.
where he was super prominent. He like opened each show, but he always opened the show in like a moment of transition or tension. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's traveling in similar locations where the Baudelaires are gonna be, but not quite, and then just keeps moving. And it was just fascinating. It was played by Patrick Warburton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we um, prior to the series of unfortunate events coming out, which is 2017, we were already, um, if I remember correctly, Legion came out first, also
Mm.
in 2017, and we were already spoiled how Legion had the narrator, how there was the what did unfortunate come out first? Now I
I
can't
can't
remember, but I
remember.
remember making comparisons between the two because both shows featured a very strong narrative off-camera person. And then later on was the freak moment of realizing, wait, the narrator is now one of the characters in the show.
Technically speaking, Lemony Snicket
Came
came
out
out
first.
first.
Okay.
Like by a month. Okay, okay.
Yeah, but I remember there was that connection that we were making in both shows that
Mm-mm.
it always had that almost omniscient person explaining things, whether explaining the detail of certain things or explaining factors that will be touched on in the show in that episode, but not necessarily mentioned by the characters.
And And then I think my only rough bit was like, of course, there are certain expectations set with like the way that the movie
Mm,
did it versus the series, because of course it covered almost the same material.
yeah.
Then it was like, Aunt Josephine is so different because I still want Meryl Streep Aunt Josephine, but it's okay.
Excuse
but
me.
on the whole, I was quite happy with it.
The
Um,
baby definitely had a bigger role.
Yes.
Sunny.
Sunny was quite a strong character in the TV series. And so we went with Melina Opal Weissman as Violet,
Hmm.
and then Louis Oliver Hines as Klaus. Has he done anything? Not quite since then. But they were like fairly not too familiar as
Mm-hmm.
actors and actresses, and oh my gosh, I had forgotten that Violet was also the young
Yes.
Supergirl. Oh yeah, but those are mostly like short flashback
Mm-hmm.
sequences. Okay, Black Swan is here, and he says he admits he's only read the first few books and then had seen the film and watched the series.
Now, of course, the series becomes one of those gifts that keeps on giving. Um, the the shift from something that was very close to the movie to later on suddenly you feel the kids take that shift from being victims to being more active and willing to do what they can and fight back. Then you have the secret society element that kicks in the later season, and Nathan Fillion is always fun to have in any show.
I think what helped set it apart, because then I was always worried, like, so we're just gonna cover the same ground in this
Mhm.
first season, but they started showing sort of actions of the VFD organization that was
Yes.
like at the heart of Lemony Snicket, and so there was a whole bunch of things that had not been covered in either the books or the movie
Hmm.
that was being depicted on screen. And then it was very intriguing. Like, so what's this? What's going on? And you didn't quite know it was VFD right away because that's something that's revealed in the progression of the season. Sorry about that, but that's how it is. But and then it just builds over time, and I like that angle because then the Netflix series gave both book readers and fans of the movie
Hmm.
still a reason to watch it because it was more than just the same story being
Hmm.
told again. And that was, I think, was a very smart decision.
There were a lot of smart reveals that happened. Everything from the double meaning visuals or iconography to objects that have greater relevance later on, which tried to capture how it was in the book. The
Mhm.
books mentioned a transtextuality that was present, wherein a full page image at the end of each book would show a picture or context of the next book.
Yes.
So, like the book, one book would end with an image of a snake, and then that's because in the next story the
It's the
snake
reptile.
plays a big role, and it continues until the end of the series.
And um, so my adventure with this was like as the seasons progressed, I kept pace with the books,
Hmm.
but in the sense that I tried to make sure I finished the books before the next season would begin, so that I wanted to be up to date. And admittedly, I was just getting more and more excited
Hmm.
as the things progressed. And I know I would kept rambling to Toby like, oh my god, this thing that happened." And it's so then I can talk about the books a
Because
little
in
bit.
many ways, Lemony Snicket's books is like Dan Brown for kids. What? It's true. Because there are all these vague, cryptic
So
references,
annoying.
but it's
You know
true.
I don't like
But
Dan
it's
Brown.
true. It makes sense, doesn't it? Lacrimosa.
I think it could have been a bit more elevated, but fine.
Poe.
I'll accept your
See, all
analogy
these
because
references.
I can't think of a different example at the moment as I'm infuriated by
Look,
thinking about it.
popular fiction and media having a secret meaning.
How long have you been sitting on that one?
I love Dan Brown stuff because they're popcorn reading for me.
But see, and I will only argue only because the way that it was done in the books, and
Hmm.
I know you can't directly relate because you
Yeah.
haven't read them, but
Mhm.
it was just so elegant.
I actually want to read the books
It's
because
so
I want to
elegant.
see how they translated those moments, and it leaves the reader to visualize it. Because I
Yes.
always have trouble with that. So that's why I love the Dan Brown movies, because in as much as I enjoy reading the book, I'm like always visualizing how did they how, and then when I watch a movie, okay, that kind is a nice way to show it. So.
And there is that appeal. Like once you've like uh, whether you've read something and then you watch an adaptation, or you watch an adaptation
Mhm.
and you read it, it inevitably ties the two together, and like you end up borrowing some of the imagery.
Mhm.
So like Aunt Josephine is always Meryl Streep for me,
Mhm.
which is fine. And but oh my god, I do love the who did we get for the judge in the in the. I have to make sure. I have to make sure I'm talking about the right judge. Yes, it was Joan Cusack as
Yeah.
Justice Strauss in the Netflix series. Because I was thinking, oh my god, was she in the one in the movie? No, no, no. So there were like a few like fun decisions that I'll always associate. And oh yeah, and then the Netflix series also incorporated as part of the showing these secret agent type activities. There were characters that were like, oh my god, are these the Baudelaire parents?
Hmm.
And they were they were never quite clear on who they were until they
Hmm.
reveal later on who they were. But it was such a good like, oh my god, are we following the parents? Because obviously they are a couple and they talk about children,
Hmm.
but then like, are they just children as a project or children like their children? Oh, brilliant, brilliant stuff. Um, so I love all of that. So thinking about it though, okay. Um, uh, did you feel like the children really were unfortunate? Like, given everything that's happening, was it truly uh like seemingly bad luck over and over?
Well, unfortunate in the sense that they really had little control over their lives.
Mm.
But the fact that they kept going showed that they were more fortunate than not. I mean, the house burned down, but they didn't, they weren't in it, and all these other things happening, the attempts to kill them or silence them, and they still escape and get away with it. So, unfortunate, yes, because life could be better, but not so unfortunate that things were just really bad. It wasn't like, I don't know, a choose your own adventure book wherein you die. They got away or they got around a lot of things. They also had a lot of those Deus Ex Machina moments because, well, the story has to move that
Yes.
way. And, you know, I know at the first time when Sunny chewed through something to free the group, I had that really, but then I realized, that's what the stories are supposed to be like. They're larger
Yes.
than life, and
And she's a biter. That's her thing. She's an expert biter.
oh my gosh.
Um, and then like in the first few books, stories, whatever arcs, is that
Hmm.
there was the format of uh the the caretaker, the whatever, the lawyer for the estate will try to place
Hmm.
them with new foster parents who are friends of their parents and somehow connected, and then but
Olaf's
then
in his disguises.
yeah, then something would happen. Olaf has to be in a disguise, and then
No one else sees it except the kids.
yes. So it's like so on that sense, and that's the young adult angle of it, the
Hmm.
kiddie part of it. But it was a good narrative
And
device.
it was well done. I mean, maybe at the first time it was done, there was like, really, they don't recognize him, but then you realize that's the conceit of the show. That the
Yes.
kids, sadly, no one will ever listen to them, and they can see it, but no one cares, or rather, no one believes them, and that becomes such a strong vehicle for the stories to move forward. Admittedly, I got really more into the show when suddenly the secret society slash spy angle kicked in.
Mm-mm.
Because there was suddenly, wait a minute, now there's possibly these people who try to help them. Of course, it's still a series of unfortunate events in the end. Um,
And then like I like the titles of the books, which also became the titles of every two
yeah.
episodes in the Netflix series. Was was like informative, but then didn't reveal too much because ultimately they were structured as mysteries.
Hmm.
They were almost always structured as mystery novels, and um, because the caretaker eventually dies
Hmm.
or is somehow
Removed from the
waylaid or
narrative.
removed, and therefore you're trying to figure it out.
Hmm.
So just going over the titles and what they evoke is like the bad beginning, of course, where it starts. The reptile room, it's kind of neutral. The wide window, and then it started getting like darker because it was like the miserable mill, which was already like quite of a turning
Hmm.
point. The austere academy, the ersatz elevator, the vile village, the hostile hospital, the carnivorous carnival, the slippery slope, the grim grotto, the penultimate peril, and then of course
The end.
the end, which is the ah yeah, it's how the books are structured, and then the Netflix series tried to follow that format as well. which was pretty cool.
So, according to the Wikipedia page, there is the all the wrong questions.
Mm.
So, All the Wrong Questions is a four-part young adult series focused on Snicket's childhood working for the VFD.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to
So, I
getting myself
wonder if
copies.
they pulled information from this for the show.
It could be. I haven't read it unfortunately.
Because you
I will
mentioned
get there.
that there were parts in the show that didn't come from the books.
They come from the main books,
But
yes.
maybe that's where they pulled some of the backstory of VFD out from
Mm-mm.
this one.
And then like I know initially I was like I had hesitations with Neil Patrick Harris's interpretation of Olaf, and
Hmm.
it was weird that I guess I had lived with Jim Carrey in my head for so long that it was kind of hard to erase. But over time, totally won me over
Hmm.
also, and I love that they really gave sort of personality to his crew because that's what the movie didn't have time to do.
Yeah.
Like he had a crew that generally matched the physical descriptions of elements of Olaf's gang in the book.
Hmm.
But then when it came to like who they were a little indistinguishable.
They were
Because of
just
course,
henchmen.
the movie didn't have time to flesh them all out. The series really got to explore some of them, and the twins and whatnot, and the big guy. And I like that. Like it wasn't still super detailed.
Hmm.
You still didn't know their main motivations for the most part, but it was enough to like make them more real, I
Yeah.
guess. To make and to also make them more of a threat. And then in the few cases where they would try to help, then their motivations made sense. It wasn't just a out of nowhere they decide to help out. So it still was like consistent with their characters and motivations and the like.
Hmm.
Okay. What else are we digging up on the supporting material?
So, the franchise did have a video game. There was the
And this
series of
was
fortunate events video game based on the books that was released in 2004.
which is like timing with the movie.
Yeah. So you play all three orphans at points in the game with encounters with the different characters. Although never mentioned in the game are some references to VFD.
Hmm.
A separate casual game entitled The Series of Unfortunate Events was then later published as a tie-in to the books. Set in the house, the game involves six associates and as many objects as they use in Olaf's efforts to capture the children.
Hmm.
Then there were the board games. Mattel had the Perilous Parlor game, a 2 to 4 player game where one plays Olaf and the others are the Baudelaire children. You should eliminate the guardian while the children try to keep the guardian alive.
Oh.
There's the catastrophic card game, where players are looking to complete sets of characters, and there's different sets. The orphans, Olaf in disguise, Olaf's henchmen.
Olaf in
I feel
disguise.
like I want to find this
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
because it sounds like cool. You take turns drawing cards, and then either from the top or the bottom of the pile, and then you discard them in hopes of completing the set. So gameplay wise, it doesn't sound anything interesting, but just for completing it, it sounds like I'd like to look for it.
Oh, I'm looking at an image, and let me
Mhm.
share the tab with everyone.
And then there is the Tragic Treasury songs.
It
Mhm.
uses art that is similar to the original book
Book.
cover art. Yeah.
So there's Tragic Treasury, songs from a series of unfortunate events. They're the 13 songs that were written and performed by Stephen Merritt of the Magnetic Fields. They correspond to the 13 audiobooks of the series, plus two extra bonus songs.
Mm.
There
Jay,
was,
sorry,
yeah,
Jay chimes in there. The introduction of the lady villain made the show more exciting.
Esme,
Yes.
yeah, I actually liked her. Lucy Punch played Esme Squalor,
Yes.
and I admittedly liked her introduction to the story because I was getting tired of Olaf.
Yeah.
Admittedly, she gave a fresh face to evil, and personal, of course, my personal joy of seeing that character was because it reminded me of, I don't know, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the movie. I got the power. Butterfingers and all that, the group. Bruce Willis movie.
What? Oh, you're Fifth Element.
No.
No.
I'll have to search it.
Oh, Hudson Hawk.
Hudson Hawk. It reminded me of Hudson Hawk.
Okay.
It
Because she was a super over the top,
yes,
ridiculous
but at
villain.
the same time felt she was super high class and all that, and I just love that type of a villain in my stories, and she portrayed that type of a
And I
villain.
like I like these kind of conceits because the way she was first introduced, you think that following the original narrative structure, then we're not going to see her
That
again.
she'll be eliminated afterwards.
Yeah, but then in the end, she became part of the story, and I think it was like little things like that marked the shift. And then finally, when the Baudelaires no longer are working with Mr. Poe and the whole get adopted,
Mhm.
guardian dies, get put up for adoption again, that really was like when the story, they were like really exerting that they're gonna take agency for themselves. And they
Yes.
can't anymore be the kids being looking for guardians to save
Minerva
them.
Mayflower. That was her name in Hudson Hawk.
Ah,
Played
the
by
Mayflower.
Sandra Bernhardt.
Bunny, Bobo.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all about old stuff, and oh my god, we gotta. Now I want to rewatch.
If you
Hudson
haven't
Hawk.
seen Hudson Hawk, please watch it. Seriously,
It's
watch it.
campy fun.
It is. It's the reason we enjoy stuff like a series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, it's a different take on like heist like
Yes.
things. Very comedic. I now wonder how can we find it again to watch Hudson Hawk. Do you like to swing on a star?
Another reason that we like the narrator aspect was because it reminded us of Pushing Daisies.
Yeah, which
Pushing
we also
Daisies,
rewatched just today.
Pushing Daisies is such a stylized visual spectacle with so much wordplay in how it tells its story. So when a series of unfortunate events had that similar feel,
Now that I think about it, yeah, because
the narrator,
they like puns and they
the
like
puns, the alliterations, the
yes.
double meaning words, and it was just such a joy to watch. Or would you rather be a fish? Indeed, indeed. Oh, that was such a smart thing. As illogical as it was, to use a song.
As timing
Oh my god, that's what I do in the morning now.
for quite some time. Yes,
I play music.
you talked about it on an episode. You use music to time
Hudson
things.
Hawk is why I shower with music. And I choose the song based on how much time I have left.
Bunny,
So like if I look at the time and I'm like, okay, I have 10 minutes before the meeting starts, I'll choose a song which I know is 4 minutes. So while it's playing, I can shower. Okay. Um. Okay.
Mitch shares, I am confusing scenes from Jim Carrey and Neil Patrick Harris. And that's fair. And I think because it is the same character doing the same story,
And
and
and they nicely had an echo of each other in terms of visual style.
they were still unique interpretations, but there were like the echoes, resonance between the two.
They both could have been Olaf in disguise.
Oh, that's true. That's awesome. Yes, that would work. That would work. And a moth has joined the set, so we may be dodging every now and then, because of course it is attracted to the lights, and everything else is dark. Okay. Um. Yeah. So this is definitely one of those cases where, across the different sort of formats of a series of unfortunate events, I love each in its own way.
Mhm.
I super fell in love with the books. I feel guilty that like my copies are just digital ones. And then I keep weighing like, will I buy myself a physical set? But then where am I gonna put it?
Mhm.
It's like in this mountain of madness of geekery that is our home. Like, where am I gonna put those books? But that's one thing I've always been considering. And then I still feel the Jim Carrey movie, I have a soft spot for that one
Mhm.
because it still introduced me to the franchise. And then Meryl Streep as Josephine is still, oh my gosh,
That's true.
amazing. And then even like, um, there was a distinctness to like how that version of Violet would tie her hair up, get ready to invent, and like I could work with these things. And then, but the Netflix series was definitely a beautiful celebration of the story as a whole, and I'm glad that it got to finish
Yes.
telling the
That's
story. I
true.
think that was the biggest worry. Like, is it not going to get enough, you know, mileage midway and then
Mhm.
die? Because there are, and it's well documented that many Netflix shows,
Die if they don't hit a certain
and
number.
die in the second season, because that's like once they've had enough data, that whether it's yes or no, then it's the second season. It's like the clincher, and they'll decide very quickly, like within the first few weeks or the month of the dropping of a season, they can already have enough data to determine if they're going to continue or
Mm.
not. And that's when cancellations get done. So I was worried that it was too stylized, too cerebral,
Mm-mm.
too weird wordplay. Um, but it survived. So yay for that. And we now have like a wonderful thing to remember, and I know eventually we're gonna get around to rewatching it.
So you have to answer this for me.
Okay.
Because when I was trying to search for other information, I found this. I found a number of forums
Okay.
where you have people insisting, yes, the Baudelaires are real, and that the Lemony Snicket novels took inspiration from them. But there were a group of orphans whose family died and they were, booted out of the mansion.
I don't know about that, but I feel like that just plays into the metatextual
I know. That's
nature
what I
of
was
the
thinking of.
series itself. Because the very fact that it was always about Lemony Snicket documenting these adventures, when Lemony Snicket is not a person,
Hmm.
it is a pen name. So I don't know. I don't know. Um, I can see how that, like, can be a thing.
But you're not aware of any
I am
specific.
not aware of this being real.
Okay, so to wrap up, do you feel that this is a franchise that should be allowed to rest?
Define.
Are there new books coming up?
Not that I know of.
Then should there be any new reinterpretations of the material?
Uh, I would definitely want to say that it's not necessary. Like, I think I'm super happy with what we've gotten so far,
Mm-hmm.
and we've definitely peaked uh, with the Netflix series. I feel, and there's a bunch of like supplementary or companion material for the main unfortunate series, a series of unfortunate events book series that have been released. But then beyond that, I feel like even the author has already moved on to other
Mm-hmm.
things. So I think we're okay. Not that this will stop people from doing
Mm.
it again.
I wouldn't mind if they did a new series or a new movie, but then was a different take.
Mm-hmm.
So what we already have is the movie and as the series that is the best. I guess you could say a reinterpretation of the books, but then something similar to Ten Things I Hate About You, which is Taming of the Shrew.
Yes.
Then a Snicket series of unfortunate events done for a more modern version, where this time it's two orphans in the age with internet and all this and that.
Mm.
Then to see how the whole stories would be transformed to a more modern setting would be interesting to me. I would like to see that.
Jay has an interesting question. He says, in terms of atmosphere, he preferred the colors of the movie over the series. Which visual style do you prefer?
Hmm, interesting. I am now double checking.
Because I think the movie did have that Burton-esque feel, which is like really strong pops of color, high contrast, but then occasionally still going into gothic and the like.
Yes.
But then I do feel though that the Netflix series was, for lack of a better word, kind of drabber. Like, it really made it. There was a certain gray filter
Yes.
to everything, which was still okay. But yeah, I get that. Like, I think there's a lot about the movie that I appreciate and that it still stands out. And um,
Yeah, I feel the movie has a very Harry Potter esque level of color retouching. So there's
mm,
a lot of golden hues. There's a lot of stark blue hues. Whereas the TV series went for more muted drab colors because they wanted to show the emotion of that feeling. Um, I find myself moving more towards the TV
Oh,
than
okay.
the movie.
Funnily, cinematography is credited to Emmanuel Lubezki, who before that it's super random because like he did that annoying 2003 Cat in the Hat, but then he also did Ito Mama Tambien, and then he did Meet Joe Black, and then the very sad Great Expectations, which was such a dark movie. So you can never really tell. You can never really tell how these things go. Jay suggests that maybe they can focus on the triplets. To be fair, there are other stories, yeah, that we don't quite know what happened in terms of like when these certain characters are off screen before they reappear later on. And yeah, there's definitely room for these things. I need to get around to reading the supplementary material. Let
But I
me
think
update my Kindle wishes.
I think I'm happy not to have an Olaf origin story.
Yeah, I don't think we need it because Olaf works because of his absurdity.
Yeah.
That he's so over the top. You just have to accept that this is who he is.
Olaf's Madonna, reinventing himself every time.
Why'd you use your GM voice? I feel like it was like, are we gonna see him in a game? Because I know Esme Squalor has practically appeared in the game already. She's such a character. She's such a character. Okay. How about other people? I wonder if other people have opinions on the color grading and like which visual style did you like more? Uh, okay. Um, Beyond that, uh, man, I'm really feeling I haven't like invested in the other stuff, and then I'm still on the fence about if I want to buy the books. So
Mhm.
yeah, if people need like a ridiculous Christmas or birthday idea for me, I don't own the 13 books in physical form. But then I also don't know what covers to because I like the illustrations of the original cover style. They were originally in these lighter, small hardbound editions, and then there's a newer set with the same art, but they changed the framing and now it's dark.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's better because in my mind's eye, when I think of the books, I still imagine the
So,
original
so
set.
this is I can't find the bigger picture, but I was confused if Lemony Snicket movie was connected to the Spiderwick Chronicles.
They came out around the same
And they
time,
had the same gold and red title visual
and it
thing.
was yet another like hoping this series is going to hit it big and become the next Harry Potter. So many things. No, Mitch answers. She also liked the visuals in the series. Okay, okay, that's cool. Oh yeah, and then there's the annoying. If you do own the books, they don't they don't sit on the shelf well because each spine is a different color,
Hmm.
which is okay. It's just that there's that slightly OC for uniformity. I would want a series to look the same, but it nicely looks like if you had an old library and all these things. I get so tempted to like spiral into talking about different references from the books because reading was so important and
Mhm.
all these things.
All this hidden information that people don't really notice or know about.
You're gonna go back to Dan Brown. You're so annoying. He doesn't have the monopoly on mystery again.
I know, but you can't deny the parallel.
Ah. Toby's been annoying me since right before the episode. He was like
No!
super back to back punning.
What?
Like I froze in place with the last one.
Why?
Ah. It's those moments that I remind myself that oh my gosh, I really do love this person. And I'm stuck with him for the rest of my life when these puns. Okay. Um Jay says the style is still but yeah, there's a lot of similarities in the style. I just felt like the series definitely had a distinct like gray color grade.
Hmm.
It was to kind of stress the things are unfortunate.
I liked it in the series, I guess, because it felt I liked how it felt like they were the source of color in the scenes.
Mm.
And then when you got introduced to new characters who would be intriguing, they tend to be colorful as well. And then later on, so like Esme seemed vibrant, but then later the colors became also subdued. So you realized she was also part of that side, and there was that approach to it. More so when VFD showed up. So that's why I really liked it. The movie for me, it just felt like Harry Potter in terms of the visual treatment.
Mm.
But I did the Meryl Streep scene is always the one that stands out because that house,
Oh my god.
that house affects people in so many ways.
It was such a. I mean, I think to be fair, because like the reptile room was just okay,
Mhm.
with like yet another CGI snake in a post Harry Potter world. Like
Yeah.
really another snake? Okay, fine. Um, but the wide window sequence, the house, that house
Yeah.
was a brilliant set. And then I think I'm going to want to dig up like I don't know if there are any behind the scenes YouTube content that we can explore after this episode. Then I totally will because I love that sequence. And it's funny because um like I always think Aunt Josephine, Meryl Streep, love her, love the house. But when the house shines, she's not in it.
Mhm.
It's just the kids and ah ah ah. But the core concept of that still came from the books, and then how that sort of clever wordplay imagery. I mean, the book was just a lot of the reasons why the show is so good is because the source material was that strong, and then it was adapted faithfully, or at least in a manner that worked well for TV, and knocks my socks off.
Mhm.
Um, I super recommend the books. It at the end, I mean, initially it's like young adventure, young adventure, young adventure, but then towards the end, it starts really becoming more thoughtful and more. There are very strong metaphors in place
Mhm.
about good and evil and doing right in the world
Yeah.
and where everybody's place is, and you still get that in the TV series, but um, more so in the books, more so in the books. And then I think at the end of it, I know when I finished reading it, I was kind of like stunned. I think I was stunned, and I was super like,
Mhm.
I have to think about this. And I was like, I know I was like rambling to Toby about how I was feeling after finishing the series,
Mhm.
and I know I blogged about it in many ways because it's such a powerful piece of literature,
Mhm.
and I super love it. And as unfortunate as things were for the Baudelaire orphans, I feel we are all fortunate that this story exists.
Yes.
And yeah, no regrets. So whichever format you decide to engage with it, whether the books, just the movie, or the TV series, I think there's a lot to be gained from it.
From this series of unfortunate events.
Yeah. Although I will admit, I still end up using the phrase "a series of unfortunate events" when a person describes like bad luck upon bad luck upon bad luck, which ironically most happens when I'm doing job interviews. And I'm like, so what happened here? What happened here in your resume? And then people start telling me their sad stories and like why they quit this job and moved on. And
Mhm.
like, oh, but in my head, I'm like, so are you saying you had a series of unfortunate events?
Did you ever have anyone go, no, it was just my fault?
No.
If you do get someone who says that, hire them. Jay shares only read until Wide Window because only have the first three
See, a
books.
lot of people I feel went this route. See, Black Swan said the same thing that they only read the first three, which is also
Was
what the
that
movie
was that
covered.
because of Harry Potter?
What do you mean?
Did you like not choose to invest on more books because you had to buy a different series, or
That's a good question. That's a
because
good question.
admittedly the young adult book market, if I got that term right, they're vicious. They really try to trap you into buy this instead of that. Like it's not like comics were in well, comics because hey, you have the monopoly of well, not really monopoly, but you have the main big companies. So when you are reading X-Men, they'll try to get you to read Avengers. They'll try to get you to read it. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
But then in terms of the young adult book series, they rarely ever reference or connect to other books. So you're like sobrang read this and not the others.
Yeah, and then I know that there were so many. I mean, it was the that period was definitely the young adult book boom. And then I know like even in the format that a series of unfortunate events came out, there was a similar one also that I can't remember the title now. That they also used that same hardcover styling. You could confuse the two book series for
Mhm.
one another, but they were different. And then like so like when people like recommend, so even there are things like Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place and the Doldrums and the Crims and the Problem Children. So there were like there was a distinct effort to like come up with similar books, and it
Mhm.
was maddening to kind of piece them apart and figure out which one is which. So I can get the getting overwhelmed and like the sort of oversaturation of the young adult market and not knowing what you really wanted to read as well. And it's hard, and that boom has never really like gone away, and that's why uh, young adult novels have such a big part now. Because before, young adult novels were like on the side of children's
Yeah,
novels.
people used to laugh that, oh wow, they're trying to have fiction and all that. But then it really boomed.
Then it boomed. So now it's like it's this whole section of young adult fiction, and then you have a lot of people who regardless of age, continue to want to read only like young adult genre fiction.
Mhm.
So things like the isn't it the Maze Runner series is also a book, and then the Rick Riordan
Excuse me.
mythology related books. That's a lot of things. So Jay is on the lookout for the rest of the books. It's a treasure hunt. Yeah, and then like so I keep staring at the darn fully booked box set that's like sitting around. It's like, ooh, I could just get them all at once, but then why? Why am I gonna do this? Um, he got his copies kasi individually from book sales, so that's
Mm.
fair. Book hunting is a thing. Um, oh, see, Mitch is like she kind of remembers the book I'm talking about. Na parang it was a question in terms of the format. I just can't figure it out. What was it? I'm looking, skimming different lists. But I just want to see if I can find it really quickly. But I doubt it because the things that are coming up are super random. Oops. Super random. Super random. Uh, Mysterious Benedict Society. I don't think this is it, although this is also getting adapted. And then the Willoughbys. I don't think this is it either. Oh my gosh. I can't figure it out. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just going through one last set of things. Otherwise, we should wrap up this episode before we push our luck too much and things gotta go. Oh my god, someone recommends Kurt Vonnegut books for people who like it. I'm like, really? Okay. Bit of a stretch, but sure. Um, the Doldrums again. Roald Dahl stuff, but then because Roald Dahl stuff was never like a single series. So it doesn't quite feel like it's the perfect comparison. Uh, ah, okay, I don't know. I don't know. All right, that's all I got. Uh, so yeah, we already talked about like what if there was another remake? Is there more longevity in the franchise? I think we're okay. And now I have to add the rest of the books to my wish list.
I of course find myself um, connecting this. Maybe you're thinking 39 Clues.
Nope,
Um, Connecting this all the way back to the Hardy Boys.
I never got into the Hardy Boys.
So there's Hardy Boys, and then there's Nancy Drew.
And there's the no, there's the something family. Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew family. Uh, Dag damn it! I know there was another book series. Yeah, the Hardy Boys were like these. Ultimately, were just mystery novels, but then written for kids. And
Mhm.
then Nancy Drew was a female detective.
What were you thinking of, ano? Um, oh, where did it go? I had it earlier. If it wasn't 39 clues, um, the Stonecraft Detective Agency? No.
No, I mean it was like the same era. Because we used to have them. Books like Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. There was one na Panic as a Family. I can't remember what it was called. So frustrating.
Yeah, I'm not sure what those are.
It's okay. It's okay. All these things I can't find. So the bottom paper, no.
A to Z Mysteries, Detective Dinosaur Undercover.
The Bobbsey twins.
Mm, okay.
That's what it was. The Bobbsey twins. Oh, Tristan also said it. Also, sorry, because I found it. Thank you, Tristan. Dennis Ching's like the Mystery Machine. Totally different experience. Okay, Mitch asked Toby, is there any more interesting trivia about the movie or the series? I guess IMDb. Does it have
Yeah, I
anything?
actually didn't check, but let's dive in right now. So for the series, let's look at trivia that's listed. Da, 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 da.
Did you know?
Um, so Neil Patrick Harris got a real version of the tattoo of the eye,
Oh wow!
um, so that they didn't have to reapply it anymore.
Oh wow!
The names underlined in the newspaper during the opening theme sequence are all anagrams for Count Olaf.
Ah, that's cool. That's cool.
Um, Looking if there's anything else. Um,
Oh yeah, then they remind you that Neil Patrick Harris sang the opening theme
mhm.
song. That's true. It was a good theme song. Rocket Title Book. Oh, sorry, Mitch. I only found the similar to Nancy Drew one, which was the Bobbsey Twins. But I still can't remember the other young adult series that was kind of grim and gruesome, but not a series of unfortunate events. It was something, yeah, something like that, something vile, something. Anyway, um, yeah.
That is a sign.
Yeah, like we should just search for these things on our own time. Oh wow. I didn't realize Pinterest has all these like lists of things like presented as images. People have a lot of time for these for graphic design for this sort of thing. Okay, okay. And this is like Goosebumps. I never read Goosebumps,
Hmm.
R.L. Stein and the like. Okay, I'm never gonna find it. The Book of Vile Darkness suggests. Oh, because of Forgotten Realms. Okay, sorry, I'm not a D&D person, so I didn't recognize it. Nope, not gonna look for. But thank you, Dennis. Trying to remember what young adult series had similar book covers to
I sort of now remember there was that
a
series.
series of unfortunate events, but obviously it didn't get that big.
Parang ito something like, parang each cover was parang a way to die, parang poison
Yes,
or something like that. Yeah, I
yes.
sort of remember there was that book. Uh, oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah, I sort of remember that book.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Okay, this is annoying. Now you really want to find it. Do we have to go by publisher? Like search Penguin Books?
I don't know. I don't know. Was it also like Scholastic? Uh, we're not gonna find it. Okay, okay. It's like parang gusto ko pumunta ng bookstore to look for it. And then the book has a question mark at the end of the title. Parang? I don't know. I can't remember. I can't remember. But yeah, okay, we're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna research. If we figure it out, we will share it as a comment either on the video or in the newsletter group,
Ah!
the announcement group. So yeah, we'll figure it out.
We're not gonna be able to sleep.
Okay, okay. Anything else, Toby, before we go?
Nah, it's not these.
Anything else, Toby, before we go?
I guess, yeah, I guess that's it. Tomorrow is our last episode for this week regarding luck and fortune, and
Yes.
we are going to talk about. Was it Friday the
I think
13th?
it's just about luck and lucky and unlucky.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk about luck.
everything connected about that. So please do join us. But for tonight, this is our episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you'll join us again next time.
For questions or suggestions for future episodes, fill up the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. So now we got a general format. But Monday it's tabletop games. Tuesday
Monday's
it's,
games.
Yeah, Tuesday it's food. Thursdays is fandom, so whether TV shows, books, and whatnot.
Mhm.
And then Fridays like long discussion. Maybe you can have alcohol kind of topics. So that's like how it goes. So if you want to like slot suggestions in those categories, feel free. You can follow us on Twitter, Altobi No Shade, RG Suniko.
You could also check out our blog, baduypray.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below and tell us what the heck is that book series that we can't remember. Um, yeah. And be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is
Baduy
Baduy Pride. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.